They told you these tariffs would protect American solar workers. They just forgot to mention which ones. Right now, if you are a solar installer in Ohio or Texas or Florida or really anywhere in this country where you actually show up to job sites and put panels on roofs, your project pipeline is thinning. Proposals that made sense 6 months ago all of a sudden aren't penciling out anymore. Customers who are ready to sign are in a holding pattern, waiting to see if prices come down. Developers who had projects fully modeled are running new numbers and shelving things they were excited about. And somewhere in Washington, D.C., a trade official is holding a press conference about protecting the American energy workforce. They are not talking about us. Today, we are going to follow this policy from the press release to the job site. We're going to figure out who is actually getting protected, who is actually getting taxed, and because this is how I'm wired, what it means for people who want to build careers in the industry without getting flattened by decisions made by people who have never held a multimeter in their lives. I'm James Manser. This is SolarPunkPro. Let's go. Before we get into who's winning and who's losing, let me give you a quick, painless history of how we ended up here. I promise this is not a trade law seminar. The U.S. has been imposing tariffs on solar panels in various forms since 2012. Mr. Barack Obama was in office. The original duties were aimed at China, where manufacturers were found to be selling solar panels below cost to capture the American market share. That's a real thing. That happened. And honestly, it was a bit of a legitimate concern. The solar industry did what industries always do when tariffs show up. It moved. Manufacturing relocated to Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia. For a few years, that worked. Panels kept flowing, prices kept falling, and installers, well, we kept installing. Everyone figured out how to operate inside the new rules. Then came the investigations finding that Chinese companies were routing products through the Southeast Asian countries specifically to get around the original duties. Classic regulatory whack-a-mole. So, more tariffs came. This time aimed directly at Southeast Asian manufacturers on top of broader Section 201 safeguard tariffs that hit all imported panels regardless of where they came from. The net result today, importing a solar panel into the United States is substantially more expensive than it was 5 years ago. The specific rates are a moving target. They vary by country, by manufacturer, by which round of investigation you're reading about. So, I put links to most of the current SIA analysis in the show notes rather than citing numbers that might shift by the time you hear this. But the direction is simple. Prices are going up, substantially up. Here's what every single person listening needs to understand. The panels powering the solar installations going up on American homes and businesses are overwhelmingly imported. That's not an opinion, it's the supply chain reality. Tariffs make those panels more expensive, and that cost gets absorbed somewhere. It can be by installers compressing already thin margins, by developers shaving projects because the numbers no longer work, or by customers staring at a quote that came in $500 to $1,000 higher than they expected. Usually, it's some combination of all three. That is the landscape. Now, let's talk about why the justification for it does not hold up. The official story is clean. Foreign manufacturers, most of them connected to Chinese supply chains, are flooding the American market, and they're flooding it with cheap panels. American manufacturers cannot compete on price. Tariffs, well, they level the playing field. They protect American jobs. They build energy independence. That argument, it's not crazy on its face. But let's actually check it. There are American companies making solar panels. First Solar is the flagship example, a U.S. headquartered manufacturer building thin film panels in Ohio and Alabama. Hanwha QCell, they have a factory in Dalton, Georgia. The Inflation Reduction Act's domestic content bonuses have generally catalyzed some new manufacturing investment, and I want to be fair about that. Real money has moved toward real American production capacity. But here is the number that blows up the protecting American manufacturing argument. U.S. domestic solar manufacturing capacity, it is a fraction of what American installers actually need. The gap between what we make here and what we install here, it's not even close. We are not in a situation where foreign panels are crowding out a robust, thriving domestic industry. We are in a situation where a small domestic manufacturing sector exists and a much larger installation workforce depends on imported hardware to function. Tariffs don't create the domestic capacity that doesn't yet exist. They just make the imports more expensive while we wait for that capacity to appear. Now, before the comments fill up with people telling me I'm ignoring that Elon Musk and his 100 gigawatts announcement, let's talk about it. This is the most compelling counter argument to everything I just said, and I'm going to engage with it because honestly, it's the only way this is worth doing. Earlier this year at Davos, Mr. Musk announced that Tesla and SpaceX would each build 100 gigawatts of annual solar manufacturing capacity in America by 2028. Tesla is already building a new facility in Brookshire, Texas, co-located with their Megapack megafactory outside of Houston. The Texas facility is expected to open later this year. Tesla has also been manufacturing its TSP 420s, those solar panels at their Gigafactory in Buffalo, New York, since late 2025, currently running about 300 megawatts of annual capacity. Musk wants to get from 300 megawatts to 100,000 megawatts by 2028. So let me put that number into context because it deserves the context. First Solar, America's largest domestic solar manufacturer, right now projects roughly 18 gigawatts of capacity by 2027. The entire U.S. solar industry installed 43 gigawatts of capacity in all of 2025. Musk is saying Tesla will produce more than double what the entire U.S. industry installed last year on its own in under 2 years. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you that's impossible. Mr. Musk has built things that people said were impossible, but I am going to ask you to hold that announcement up next to a specific piece of history because, well, the history is pretty directly relevant. Last time Mr. Musk announced a massive American solar manufacturing facility, New York State built him a factory, a gigafactory in New York, in Buffalo. It was going to be the largest solar manufacturing facility in the Western Hemisphere. The deal included 1,500 jobs for New Yorkers and $5 billion in state investment over 10 years. You know what happened? Tesla outsourced panel production to Panasonic, manufactured at low volumes for a few years, and then converted most of the facility to making supercharger components. The largest solar manufacturing facility in the Western Hemisphere became a supercharger parts factory. Well, now Tesla is building in Texas, and I want to be honest, I think this time there's a real financial reason behind the ambition that wasn't there in Buffalo. Tesla Energy generated $12.8 billion in revenue in 2025, driven primarily by the insane power appetite of AI data centers. Musk has a genuine business case for domestic solar manufacturing capacity at scale now in a way he arguably did not have 10 years ago. So I'm not writing this off entirely, but here's where the detail that puts the entire tariff debate into a very uncomfortable light. To build this American solar manufacturing facility, this flagship of domestic energy independence, Tesla is negotiating the purchase of approximately $3 billion of Chinese solar manufacturing equipment. Sit with that for a moment. The largest planned domestic solar manufacturing expansion in American history is being equipped with Chinese machinery. The tariff regime that is supposed to insulate American manufacturing from Chinese competition is not preventing the biggest American manufacturing play from depending entirely on Chinese tools to do it. Not because Tesla is being hypocritical, they're buying what exists and what works, which is what any rational company would do. But because the global solar supply chain is so deeply integrated that you cannot simply legislate American manufacturing capacity into existence by making imports more expensive. So here's where I land. Maybe Tesla hits 100 gigawatts. Maybe they hit a third of that. Maybe something real emerges in Texas that genuinely shifts the domestic manufacturing picture by 2028 or 29 or 30. I hope it does. But the 200,000 American workers working in solar installations right now, they cannot operate on a Davos announcement. They need affordable panels today. The tariff regime is making that harder on the promise of a domestic capacity that 2 decades of American industrial promises have not yet delivered at any sort of scale. So let's put faces on this. The U.S. solar industry, it employs over 200,000 workers. The overwhelming majority of those jobs are in installation, project development, sales, operations, not manufacturing. These are people who show up on job sites, who climb up on roofs, who pull permits, close deals, commission systems, and come back when something breaks 2 years later. These are the jobs that cannot be outsourced. You cannot install a solar panel on a house in Maine from an office in Hawaii. These are jobs that exist in American communities, pay American families, and depend on project activity to stay alive. When panel prices go up, project economics compress. Residential solar installers are small businesses running on margins that were never generous. When the landed cost of a panel increases, one of three things happens. The customer pays more, the installer makes less, or the project doesn't get built. And right now, in a lot of markets, it's all three simultaneously. Higher customer prices slow the close rate. Lower margins squeeze operations. Fewer projects mean fewer hours, fewer hires, and in some cases, layoffs. Utility scale and commercial developers, they feel this differently, but not less painfully. Large projects are modeled years in advance. When tariff uncertainty enters those models, when a developer genuinely cannot predict what panels will cost at the time of purchase, well, projects get delayed or canceled. And that doesn't just affect the developer. It affects every subcontractor, every electrician, every project manager, every equipment supplier who's built into that project plan. And then there is the person at the very end of the chain, the homeowner, who ran the numbers 6 months ago, got excited, called 3 installers, and now finds that every quote has come in higher than 6 months ago. Some of those people delay. A lot of them walk away entirely. Lower consumer adoption means slower national deployment, which means the clean energy transition extends its timeline, which means the fossil fuel industry's revenue window stays open longer, almost like it was done by design. I talked last episode about Australia, where a comparable residential solar system costs a fraction of what an American homeowner pays. We already carry some of the highest soft costs in the developed world: permitting fees, interconnection timelines, labor rates that reflect how difficult it is to pull a permit in most American jurisdictions. Tariffs are just adding hardware costs on top of a cost structure that was already working against us. We are not closing the competitiveness gap. We are widening it. And I want to be careful here because I am not in the business of conspiracy theories, and I'm not going to tell you this is all a coordinated plot, engineered in, say, a fossil fuel boardroom. I am going to ask you to follow the logic with me because the logic could lead you somewhere. When solar panel costs rise, solar adoption slows. Basic economics. When solar adoption slows, fossil fuel demand stays elevated for longer. When fossil fuel demand stays elevated, the companies that sell fossil fuels make more money for more years. Those companies have substantial influence over energy policy in this country with this administration through lobbying, campaign contributions, and the funding of think tanks and media organizations that shape the public conversation about what energy policy should look like. I'm not telling you tariffs are an oil company operation. I'm telling you that when you try to understand who benefits from a policy decision, the first question is always, who profits from the status quo this policy is protecting? You can answer that question yourself. You do not need me to say it out loud. All right. If you have been listening to this and some part of your brain is now saying, great, the policy environment is a disaster, maybe I should just stay in my corporate job where at least the chaos is predictable. I am going to push back on that directly. Disruption, well, it creates cracks in the wall. People who actually understand what is happening, who can read the situation clearly rather than just absorbing the press release, well, they find their way through those cracks while everyone else is still waiting for clarity. Here is where the openings are right now. First, there is domestic manufacturers that are hiring, and they are insulated from exactly the pain I've been describing. First Solar, Q-Cells, and Silfab, and others. They are the new entrants being built on the IRA incentives that benefit from the tariff environment. It narrows the price gap between the domestically produced panels and the cheaper imports. These companies, they need production technicians, quality assurance engineers, supply chain coordinators. They need operations managers. These roles, they are growing in Georgia and Ohio and places that don't typically get talked about as clean energy hubs. And if you are open to manufacturing or if your background is in manufacturing, well, this is a moment to pay attention to. Second, storage. Storage is a generally different story. Battery storage is not caught in the same tariff dynamics hitting solar panels. The storage market is being driven by grid reliability needs, AI data center demand, and the growing residential backup power market. Installation, system design, sales, grid integration, these career paths, they are growing and growing fast, and they are growing largely independent of what is happening with panel import duties. If tariff uncertainty around panels makes you nervous, well, storage is worth your serious attention. Third, and this is the one I want you to really sit with, supply chain and procurement expertise. It is suddenly scarce and very valuable in this industry in a way it has never been before. 3 years ago, you did not need to understand what domestic content requirements were in order to work in solar. You didn't need to know the difference between an anti-dumping duty and a countervailing duty. You didn't need to be able to model hardware cost risk for a project developer across a 12-month procurement timeline. Well, now you do. And very few people in this industry have that knowledge yet. So if you come from logistics, procurement, operations, finance, or legal, the clean energy industry needs skills that your current industry probably already gave you. The tariff disruption created a job category that did not exist before. And fourth, policy and advocacy. The industry is actively fighting this. SEIA and regional clean energy associations are more engaged in trade policy than at any previous point in the industry's history. Government affairs directors, policy analysts, communication specialists, these roles, they are well funded and growing because the stakes are high enough that organizations are paying for real expertise. The tariff situation, it is a headwind. But headwinds favor people who understand how to navigate them. The installer who understands supply chain risk, the developer who can model hardware cost uncertainty, the procurement specialist who knows domestic content inside and out. Those people are scarce, and scarce means paid. So look, if today's episode made you wonder what this actually looks like in your specific city with your specific background in a real market where you're trying to build something, that's exactly what we do during our free industry analysis call. I will spend 30 minutes with you mapping out which companies in your area are positioned well right now, which ones are exposed, the tariff headwinds, and which ones are not, which career paths match what you already know, how to do it. No pitch, no pressure, just 30 minutes applying 2 decades of industry knowledge to your specific situation. The link will be found in the show notes. And if today resonated, please book a call. Let's figure out what this moment actually means for you, specifically, because the answer, it looks very different in Ohio than it does in Florida and different again in California. And I know all 3 of these markets. I'm James Manzer. This has been the SolarPunkPro podcast. See you next time.